Hello kiddos of class 7. Today we are going to start your third unit, B reading. It's a poem and the title is Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead. It's written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Written by who? Alfred Lord Tennyson. Before I start with the poem, let me give you an introduction into the life and works of the great poet Alfred Lord Tennyson. Now, Alfred Lord Tennyson was born in Somersby, Lincolnshire, England. Where was he born? Somersby, Lincolnshire, England, on 6th of August 1809. He was the greatest Victorian poet. When I say Victorian poet, I mean that he was born during the era of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria was the Queen of United Kingdom. She ruled UK for about 64 years. Since Alfred Lord Tennyson was born during that period, he is known as a Victorian poet. Alfred Lord Tennyson was one of the 11 surviving children in the family. He grew up with 2 elder brothers, 4 younger brothers and 4 younger sisters. His father was George Clayton Tennyson and mother was Elizabeth Fletch. His father George Clayton was a priest in a church. He earned a decent income, but since the size of the family was quite large, he was unable to educate all of his children, so he thought to educate children by himself. He was a very well-read man. George Clayton was a man of superior abilities. He had great skills in architecture, painting, poetry and music. However, Alfred Lord Tennyson was sent to King Edward Grammar School for about 4 years. He attended school from 1816 to 1820, after which his father educated him. And in the year 1827, Alfred Lord Tennyson entered into Trinity College at Cambridge. Cambridge is a place in United Kingdom and there was a college by the name Trinity. He joined the college there and it's the same place, it's the same college where he met a man called Arthur Hallam. What was his name? Arthur Hallam. He was the fellow poet. Okay, he studied along with Alfred Lord Tennyson and he became a very close friend to Alfred Tennyson. He was the best friend of Alfred Lord Tennyson. So Alfred Lord Tennyson and his older brothers, they actually started writing quite before their teenage. They started writing quite early. In the year 1827, Alfred Lord Tennyson published his first collection of poetry, which was titled as Poems by Two Brothers. What was the title? Poems by Two Brothers. It was his first collection of poetry. It was published in the year 1827. And in the year 1829, Alfred Lord Tennyson got Chancellor's Gold Medal. What was the medal? Chancellor's Gold Medal for one of his earlier pieces of work known as Timbuktu. What was it? Timbuktu. So he got Chancellor's Gold Medal for this work, Timbuktu, when he was around 20. In which year did he receive? In the year 1829. In the year 1830, Alfred Lord Tennyson published his solo collection of poems. Earlier, his first collection of poems were Along with his brothers, he wrote along with his brothers. Now, in the year 1830, he published solo. He wrote individually, and the poems were titled as Claribel and Mariana. What were the names? Claribel and Mariana. When did he publish? In the year 1830. In the year 1831, George Clayton, who is Tennyson's father, he died because he was an alcoholic. He used to drink a lot, and he died when Alfred was at Cambridge. When he was in his college, his father died in the year 1831. So what did Alfred do? He had to come back to Lincolnshire, to Somersby, his birthplace, because he had the responsibility of his widowed mother and the rest of the siblings. So to take the responsibility of the family, he came back from Cambridge without taking his degree. He did not even take his degree, and he came back to Lincolnshire, his birthplace. Arthur Hallam also came and he stayed with Alfred Lord Tennyson along with his family, and later he got engaged. Arthur Hallam got engaged to Tennyson's sister Emilia Tennyson. In the year 1833, Alfred Lord Tennyson published his second book of poetry, which was called The Lady of Shalott. What was the title? The Lady of Shalott. Now this book met with heavy criticism. It was not received well, and it disappointed Alfred Lord Tennyson quite a lot. He was very disappointed because of the criticism his work met. So he decided not to publish anything for the next 10 years. So he did not publish any work. However, he continued to write. It was the same year, 1833, that his close friend Arthur Hallam died. Yes, Arthur Hallam had a brain hemorrhage and he dies. So the year of 1833 was quite terrible, was quite awful for Alfred Lord Tennyson. So he wrote a poem. It is an elegy. Elegy refers to a poem written for the person who is dead. If you write a poem in the memory of a dead person, it is called an elegy. E-L-E-G-Y. So it was Alfred Lord Tennyson's masterpiece. He did not publish the work yet, he just wrote it. When did he write? In the year 1833. What was the title of that elegy? The title was In Memoriam of A.H.H. Remember this, it's a very famous work of Alfred Lord Tennyson. It is a poem which he dedicated to his best friend Arthur Hallam. When did he write? In the year 1833. Now because Alfred Lord Tennyson had a lot of responsibilities of the family, he had to publish some of his poems. So in the year 1842, he published some of his famous poems such as Ulysses, Break, 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 Tears, Idle Tears. These were some of his poems which he published in the year 1842, which became quite successful. They won him immediate success. In the year 1847, he published another of his masterpiece. It was titled as The Princess. What was it called? The Princess. It was a satire on the education of women in those days. The system of education of women in those days. So it was very famous work and it was published in the year 1847. Now in the year 1850, finally Alfred Lord Tennyson published his masterpiece. What was the masterpiece? In Memoriam of A.H.H. He published this poem which he wrote for his friend. And 1850 was the year of great success to Alfred Lord Tennyson. He was at the zenith of his writing career. He was at the pinnacle, at the highest point of his career. He won a lot of success with this particular work in memoriam of A.H.H. It was the same year when he got the title Poet Laureate. Who gave this title? The Queen Victoria gave him the title Poet Laureate. Now, whenever the title of laureate is given to a poet, it means that he is the greatest poet of that period. So he was given this title. Earlier the title was given to William Wordsworth. After his death, the title of laureate was passed on to Alfred Lord Tennyson. It was the same year in 1850 that Alfred Lord Tennyson got married to Emily Selwood. Who did he marry? Emily Selwood. And the couple had two sons. Alfred Lord Tennyson had two sons. One of them was Hallam Tennyson and the other was Lionel Tennyson. He named one of his child's name after his friend's name. He named his son after his friend's name. He was named as Hallam Tennyson. Now Alfred Lord Tennyson continued to write until his 80s. He continued writing even in his 80s. And this title, Poet Laureate, was till his death. He had this title, he lived with the title Poet Laureate till his last breath. He died in the year 1892 in England and he was buried at Westminster Abbey. What was the place? Westminster Abbey. It's a famous church in England where the great people are buried. When I say great people, people ranging from scientists, great poets, scholars Stephen Hawking, William Wordsworth, William Shakespeare, all of these great poets were buried in Westminster Abbey. It's also called Poets' Corner. So he was buried there, and his last words while he was dying, his last words were, "Oh, that press will have me now." What were his last words? I'll write down somewhere here. "Oh, that press will have me now." These were his last words. He uttered these words. So this was all about the life and works of Alfred Lord Tennyson. Another point is that Queen Victoria was quite friendly with Alfred Lord Tennyson because when her husband Prince Albert died, Queen Victoria's husband Prince Albert, when he died, she read Alfred Lord Tennyson's work in memoriam. I told you at the beginning, he wrote this poem dedicated to his friend. What was it called? In memoriam. It was called what? In memoriam. So Queen Victoria read this work when her husband Prince Albert died. And she wrote in her diary that she was quite moved by this work. It helped to comfort her. This work of Alfred Lord Tennyson helped her to deal with the loss of her husband's death. It comforted her heart. She also described Tennyson's appearance. He was a very peculiar, very strange looking man. He did not dress up quite supremely. He dressed up in an odd manner. He had long beard, he had long black hair. He was a peculiar looking and he always dressed himself in an odd way, but his works were quite amazing. So this work in memoriam moved Queen Victoria a lot and she praised him. She wrote all about him in her diary. Now Alfred Lord Tennyson writes mostly about the struggles of life, and most of his poems are extremely sad. Because they are very sad, one of American poets, T.S. Eliot, one of the American poets, T.S. Eliot, called Alfred Lord Tennyson as the saddest of all the English poets. He called him the saddest one of all the English poets. Tennyson also tried his hand at writing plays, but he was not that successful in playwriting, so he continued with poetry. He did not write a lot of plays. He was less successful. I am going to list out important works of Alfred Lord Tennyson. Kindly listen properly and note them down. They are, as I told you, let's start with the famous work, which is In Memoriam of A.H.H. Tears, Idle Tears, Break, 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 The Charge of the Brigade, Ulysses, The Princess. I repeat again, In Memoriam of A.H.H., Tears, Idle Tears, Break, 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 The Charge of Brigade, Ulysses, The Princess, etc. These were some of his very popular works. Now that you have listened everything about the poet, I want you to write all of these in your notebook. Be it your classwork or rough book, everything about the poet Alfred Lord Tennyson should be written. Write down all the points I told you about him. That is one of your homework. The other one I'll tell you at the end of this poem. Now let's get started with the actual poem. What is the title? Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead. So this poem, Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead, is quite a sad poem. The tone of the poem is quite melancholic. Melancholic means extreme sadness. This poem tells a story of a wife who lost her husband in a battle. Her husband was a warrior. Warrior means a soldier who fights in a battle. He was a warrior and he died. So this poem tells all about the pain a wife goes through, and it is from the outside perspective, how the outsiders feel about the pain of this widow, this lady. Remember, she is not just a widow, she is mother of a child. She had a baby too. So here in this poem, they bring the dead body of her husband, who is a warrior. She sits next to the dead body, but she does not move or cry. All the maidens here refers to the female friends. The actual meaning of maiden is an unmarried woman. But here, these women are the friends to this lady here. She is a widow and also a mother to a child. She sits next to her husband, a dead husband, and she is neither crying nor moving. She sat there like a rock. Now what these women are doing, they want her to cry. They try in different ways to make her cry. Why do they want her to cry? Because when there is extreme pain in the heart, crying is always good. When you cry, it becomes easier to deal with the loss. Of course, she cannot forget what happened to her, but she'll be able to deal with the loss quickly, or she will not be depressed over the period of time. If she doesn't cry, if she holds her emotions, she may turn depressed and sad over the years. In order to avoid that, they wanted her to cry. They wanted her to bring out from that shock. They wanted her to accept the reality that her husband had died. So let's see what these maidens do in order to make her cry. Whether will they be successful or not, let's see. Home they brought her warrior dead. She nor swooned nor uttered a cry. So they brought home her dead warrior. How was the reaction of the widow here? She neither moved nor uttered a cry. She did not swoon. Swoon means whenever you're shocked, you faint, you lose your consciousness. So here she did not swoon, she did not fall down, she did not lose her consciousness, and she did not cry either. She sat there like a rock. The body of her husband was lying next to her and she was sitting there like a rock. She did not faint, she did not swoon, nor did she cry. All her maidens watching said, "She must weep or she will die." All her maidens who were surrounded her were discussing among themselves that this woman has to cry, otherwise she will die. Then they praised him soft and low, called him worthy to be loved, truest friend and noblest foe, yet she neither spoke nor moved. What did they do now? They want her to cry. So they tried in various ways. They thought what to do to make her cry. They thought if they praise the dead warrior, if they talk more about her dead husband, she may recollect everything about him and start crying. So what did they start doing? They started praising the dead warrior. They started saying how good he was, how worthy warrior he was. He was a noblest friend, he was a great friend and a great foe. Foe here means enemy. He was a great friend, also enemy. They are trying to praise him in order to make her cry. But what happened? Did she cry? No. She neither spoke nor moved. She sat there like a rock. What happened after that? Stole a maiden from her place, lightly to the warrior stepped, took the face cloth from the face, yet she neither moved nor wept. Now what did one of the maidens do? She stole. Stole here, it is not stealing something. Stole means to get up silently, to rise from that place from where you are sitting, to get up. Okay. So one of the maidens, one of the ladies, she stood up silently, and what did she do? Okay, all this praising is not working. I have to do something. What should I do to make her cry? Let me take the face cloth off. Let me remove the cloth off the dead man's face so that when she looks at the dead face, she may start crying. What did the woman do? She stood up, she stole, she stood up silently, and she went toward the dead warrior. She took off the face cloth. She moved the cloth from the dead warrior's face. Yet she neither moved nor wept. But still, nothing, there was no reaction. She neither moved nor wept. Wept means cry. A heavy crying. A crying especially when someone dies. Rose a nurse of 90 years, set the child upon her knee. Like summer tempest came her tears. Sweet my child, I live for thee. So at last they tried different attempts. Initially they tried to praise the dead warrior. She did not, there was no reaction. Secondly, they tried to move the face cloth. Still there was no reaction. What did one of the old maidens do? One of the nurses do? She was about 90 years. The old nurse was about 90 years. What did she do? I told you in the beginning, she is not just a widow, she is also a mother to a child. The old lady, she picked up the baby and she put the baby in her lap, in the widow's lap. Then what happened? The tears came out of her eyes like summer tempest. Do you know what is the meaning of tempest? Tempest refers to storm. It is usually seen in seas and oceans. A storm which we see in a sea or ocean is called a tempest. It is usually very destructive. Now, as soon as the old lady placed the widow's baby in her lap, what did she do? She started weeping. Tears came like the tempest, like the summer tempest. Why did the poet use summer tempest here? Because if it's a monsoon season, the nature of tempest is somewhat obvious, it's predictable. But If the tempest comes in summer, it is usually more destructive and beyond one's imagination. So the tears came in a worse way possible. So they came like a tempest. And she held her child closely, as you can see in the picture. She wrapped the child in her arms tightly and she said, "Sweet my child, I live for thee." Thee means you. It is an old English. So you was, this is how poets used to write you. Thee, okay, means you. What did she say? "Sweet my child, I live for you." She said that and she started crying. In the first few stanzas, the poet created a confusion. Because she was not showing any reaction, people tend to think that, okay, this woman is not crying. If a person dies, what is expected out of the family members? We expect the person to cry. Only then we understand, okay, the person is sad. But here, the wife was not crying. So what do the readers usually think? We think the woman is not really affected by her husband's death. She doesn't care about his death. She's not crying, so she is not affected. But that's not the case. She accepted the reality. She is not in shock. Here in the last stanza, the poet made it very clear that she was actually thinking about her son. She was thinking from a mother's perspective rather than a widow's perspective. She was not thinking about herself. Who was she thinking about? Her child. Because her husband died, she had to raise the child. She has to raise the child by herself now. The thought of raising her child by herself all alone made her paralyzed. She was paralyzed with fear. That is why she sat there like a rock. She selflessly thought about her child first. The thoughts of the child were going on in her mind. She was not thinking as a widow, but as a mother. She did not think just as a woman who lost her husband. She thought from a mother's perspective. She's not just a widow, she's a mother to a child. And the thought of raising the child alone, how will I raise my child, made her paralyzed. She was extremely scared about the reality. And that's the reason why she sat there like a rock, without any expression and without any movement. As soon as the old nurse put the baby in her lap, she came back to the present and she started to weep. That was a quite emotional poem, wasn't it? This is exactly why T.S. Eliot called Alfred Lord Tennyson the saddest of all poets. He has become my favorite. I don't know if he has become yours too. I want to read more of his works. And I suggest you to read as well. So now this is the end of your poem. Let's talk about your homework. I told you I want all the written work about Alfred Lord Tennyson. I told you in details about him. Everything about him should be written in the form of notes. That is homework 1. And the second homework is that there are questions given at the back of this poem. There are 4 questions. You have to write answers to those. Use your common sense and write answers in your own words. That is your second homework. I repeat your homeworks. The very first homework is to write about the poet, everything about him. And the second homework is to write the answers to the questions which are present after your poem. I hope you will do that. And another point, another thing, another fact I want to tell you about Alfred Lord Tennyson. When you see the title here, Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead. Do you see a change in the word order? It sounds a bit odd, isn't it? It is supposed to be, they brought her dead warrior home. What should it be? They brought her dead warrior home. But what is the title? Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead. Why do you think the poet changed the word order? It is because to create a rhythmic pattern, to give more rhythmic touch, to make the poem sound more rhythmic and musical, he changed the word order. So this was a very common style of Alfred Lord Tennyson. He used to change the word order. He used to write in a great rhythmic pattern. Can you identify what are the other lines which have the similar word order, which have the jumbled word order? Stole a maiden from her place, rose a nurse of 90 years, like summer tempest came her tears. These lines, like summer tempest came her tears, rose a nurse of 90 years, stole a maid from her place. These are some of the examples of shift in the word order. The sentence is not in a proper word order. So this is one of your questions at the back of your textbook. Is there any change in the word order? You need to write, the poet has changed the word order to give a rhythmic feeling to the poem. And he has asked you to write the other lines with jumbled word order. Just write down the lines which have the jumbled word orders. So that was all for today's video. I hope you understood it and I want you to do the work. Thank you for watching and I shall meet you in my next video. Until then, goodbye and take care.